Okay, welcome everyone to our Wisdom of the Heart video series. Today we have joining us from Zurich, Switzerland, a beautiful guest, Juliana Kurokawa. So welcome today, Juliana, to the Wisdom of the Heart series. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you, Lynn, for having me here.
And today we're going to look at day 15, a topic called Entering the Dialogue is what Juliana has chosen. And so this is in the 40 days and 40 nights. And I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Juliana. And she's going to start us off with a couple of lines from day 15. So Juliana, let me go ahead and give it to you and take it away.
Yeah, so thank you again for having me here. So the passage I wanted to read is from the dialogues from the 40 days and the 49 nights, and it's day 15, entering the dialogue. So that would be the first paragraph, which says, when you fully realize that sharing is necessary, you will have entered the dialogue. When you have fully surrendered to the fact that you can't come to know on your own, you will have entered the dialogue. When you fully accept that the voice of the one can be heard in the voice of the many, you will have entered the dialogue. When you fully realize that you are informed by everything and everyone in creation, you will have entered the dialogue.
Beautiful. I love that. Yeah. So yeah, I thought we could, if you want to maybe kind of like share what that is meaning for you, because, like we were talking earlier, this entering the dialogue is something really new in A Course of Love. And it involves a whole sort of like going into the unknown and a whole creation of the new. So it's not the dialogue that we normally think of when we speak of dialogue, at least for most people. Do you want to share a little bit about to get us started?
Yeah, the thing with when I read about like entering the dialogue, so I always have to connect like to the encounters, the way we encounter people, and the way when we are really like with people, how we can get to know ourselves and how we can sort of recognize the Christ in when we enter the dialogue. And when Jesus says, when you fully accept that the voice of the one can be heard in the voice of the many, you will have entered the dialogue. And that makes me think, like, how many times have I really entered a dialogue in the sense of what A Course of Love is proposing? Because most of the times, and I've been thinking a lot about it, like communication and dialogue, but I guess what we're doing is just exchanging ideas from the personal separate self and not really entering the dialogue and getting into the unknown field.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And, that's what another thing I was going to bring up too, is this whole notion of dialogue is it's, in the course of love, we're given that the time of learning is over. And so this for me is like almost a new way of being and a new way of knowing, entering the dialogue. And it does involve letting go of all those, old thinking patterns and concepts and moving beyond that into something completely unknown. And that's what's beautiful about it. And what I love in this first paragraph too is, I saw three things when you were reading it. The first line is, it says sharing, and then the second line is, we're surrendering to the fact that we can't do it on our own. And then I also hearing, like you said, hearing the voice of the one and the voice of the many, listening. So that listening, as you said, for me is just paramount, because how many times are we speaking with someone or, in dialogue with somebody, but we're not really listening, or we're not really sharing, or we're not fully present with what is right now. And I think that is one of the keys for me that opens up the door to true dialogue, is that ability to truly listen. And that's huge.
Yeah, that's enormous. I realize when you start really listening to people, that how much they share, and they share from their heart, because it's like we are not used to be listened to in a way, because we are used to go like through the surface of things. And I guess what it is really scary, like to enter this true dialogue that Jesus is proposing, is really like I get in touch with so much of the unknown in myself. And I've experienced like recently, like really sharing with somebody and listening and speaking from the heart. And this is something like you said, like this is something very unusual. But then at the same time, then I get in touch with all these feelings, and all of a sudden my heart feels like it's cracked open, and so there is a lot of crying, but crying that comes from an understanding, like such a deep understanding of how precious it is, like these encounters. And if I cannot do it by my own, then if I had it like always sort of in my awareness that, okay, this, what I'm doing here, sharing with this person, is something really holy, or this is something really deep. This is the only one I'm going to get to know myself, in a sense.
Yeah, and it's like, I also feel like it's this, Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. And I think, to me, that's another statement that also describes dialogue. Like dialogue is almost like the way that opens up to this, is to be able to share the truth of who we are. And as we all know from, both the Course of Love and A Course in Miracles, that sharing just strengthens all of it. When we share the truth, it blesses and elevates everything. And so, but as you were saying, I love that, because it does require like vulnerability, like dropping in, to the heart space and being deeply vulnerable. And, it throws us back on ourselves too, because we have to open up too, we have to sustain that connection without the veils, and without the hiding. And, as it says, opening up and being a clear pool where you're fully transparent and you're willing to share. And that does take a lot of courage and being vulnerable. I agree with that.
Yeah, and we sort of have to know who we are, because otherwise what we call dialogue is really like an investment on like having some sort of outcome out of this dialogue. So it's modulated, it's sort of formatted in a way that it comes across that, like when the person hears me, that they think I'm a good person or something like that. So really sharing what is, and knowing that what is what is just right now. And so it's something like really freeing as well. But like I said, it's scary, because we feel very vulnerable. Like, are they still gonna love me if I share everything that is in my heart? Like, or they probably think I'm crazy, or
yeah Yeah, I think our feelings are, the feelings really like give energy to the dialogue too, because if you're just talking to somebody and like it's just a head conversation, it's not the same as when we're dropping deep into the clear pools. And I wanted to just mention another passage that I love in here where it talks about, it says that, being open to be in a clear pool. And then if you are, if you're not able to be a clear pool, then what prevents you? And then it says, is it really the stones in your pool, or is it the challenge of moving with the current that will be generated by joining of the spacious selves? And to me, that's speaking of the vulnerability where you just, you let it's an unguarded sharing, like you're letting the walls down and you're flowing with everyone else, but it's like you're transparent and you're undefended, and so that could be fearful. But then it says, do you feel unworthy and seek to keep your unworthiness hidden? And then it says, do you still fear being known? And that was just what, you were speaking of.
And it's a great question what you made, like what prevents us from being clear pools? So what are we trying to hide? And what I always feel is like we so much long for connection and for, and for this really like this real connection. But what we do basically, as you said, we build some walls and we sort of present our like better version of ourselves to the others. And then we expect people to interact with this better version that we created, but somehow we're hiding behind this image. And that's why we feel so lonely. So it feels so good to be revealing at each time. And so each encounter, just reveal yourself. And right now I'm having a hard time, like having these conversations from the mind. And I find it really hard when people start to go into discussions. And also because what we used to in dialogue is that at the end, when you're talking to people, that in the end, so everybody comes to a conclusion and says, okay, this is what it is. And, and it seems like there has to be someone who's right and someone who's wrong. But, really entering the dialogue and coming, sort of with an open question, even, in your mind. And so for me, it revolves like a lot of things in this pool, like, and then I start relating to whatever has been said, because I didn't shut into a conclusion. Okay, now I understand it, I get it. So for me, like it becomes alive in me because I start relating to what's being shared.
Oh yeah, and again, I think this whole thing about the embracing the unknown, where it talks about that in this chapter 2, and because like you said, if you're coming with these fixed set of ideas and interpretations, you think you know it all already, there's no openness to actually drop down the guard and move with the clear pools. And I think that's where the revelations and all the insights come in, is when we do open up to the unknown. And I don't think it's possible unless we're willing to embrace the unknown. And that's scary at times, just to like, it's almost like, just free falling, you're jumping off a cliff and let's see where it goes. But that's where, like you said, I love that something comes alive inside of us. And I think it says in here too, dialogue it's embracing the unknown, which allows you to come into an unceasing coming to know. So as the more you embrace the unknown, the more you know, and then the more you let that go, embrace the unknown, the more it's just like it's an unending continuum of giving and receiving is how I'm seeing it.
Yeah, it's beautiful because now like I was listening to you and then this image came up to my mind, like we want to be lab rats in a way. Like we want to control all the variants, all the variables. Like I want everything to be known in a way. I know how I feel when I say something from my head, and then like really sharing what's really in there. So it's really getting in touch with the unknown. I don't know what happens when I do that, sort of. And but then it's like you said, and then it's like, no, okay, now you're like, you can just tap into the pool, like just put a little toe into the pool, and then you can and then maybe you're going to jump one day, and then you're going to dive one day. But so it's really like, yeah, it could also be seen as an experiment. So see what kind of connections you're going to you're going to have after sharing from the heart.
Yeah. Yeah, that wholeheartedness. And I think, this is all too, for me, it's all about sustaining our connection, because I think, this is a beautiful, to me, it's a beautiful way just to move into that ongoing openness and just keep opening and opening and opening the mind and the heart, where the mind, is opening to the wisdom of the heart. And, what I was going to say is that I think the images and all these concepts that we come in with sometimes, that is what fosters the separation. If we can just let that go and sort of like come in with this newness and almost like, a child's play, and just kind of like wipe the slate clean, it feels so expansive and freeing. And I think the more we hang on to the old ways and just keep clinging to the past, there's no newness in that for me. And I think this is just a beautiful way to move into the unknown and to create newness and new ways of togetherness being born. It's beautiful, and sustain that holy relationship, that connection, because we're not separate from anything. And that's when the veil falls over. We're perceiving ourselves as separate from everything, but we're not separate from anything. And that's where the blocks come in, is when I think I'm separate from you, and I'm not.
Yeah, and I'm gonna make sure it remains that way. That I'm still gonna have a separate self that you don't know, because if you do, then you're not gonna love me this way. So it's a new way of learning how to love everything that we are, just at this moment, not when I become enlightened, or not when I become a better person, but just right now.
Yeah, that's the practical aspect of it. I'm glad you brought that in. Just like right now, I can connect with you right now. I don't really have to learn anything. I can just open my heart and be with you. And I think this actually is, I'm just thinking, like, in all the dialogues across the world, if we were all just willing, to just listen, as it says, to share, to listen, to surrender, and just to be present with somebody. I think it would just, and somebody wants to share, to truly be there and connect with that. And that opens up everything. And it's a healing for both. It's, it's a giving and a receiving when you do that. So I just love that.
Yeah,
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
So let's see, there was, is there anything else you wanted to bring in? There was a couple other things. Oh yeah, in the chapter here, it talks about the neutral observation. And I think that, to me, was speaking of the true forgiveness and acceptance, where we're able to look at others without any kind of judgment. And I think that also helps facilitate this entering into the dialogue. How do you feel about that, the neutral observation?
Yeah, when we can really listen to whatever anyone is sharing and not really going into fitting them into some boxes. Oh, this is bad, this is good, or just be there and see also what happens within you, you know, when you just simply listen and listen to their sharing. And yeah, I mean, it is an exercise because we're so used to classifying and sort of putting things into little boxes. But yeah, and the other thing that I was just thinking is also when we do that, then we're sort of allowing ourselves to touch and being touched by the world in a way, like, because yeah, and I'm also thinking when you enter in a dialogue with someone, can you really finish this dialogue and be unchanged, like remain the same? No, it's so expensive. It's like when you have like this neutral observation or just watching them, it's just, or listening, like it's expensive because you embrace that all within yourself, so you get bigger and bigger, you know? More spacious. Yeah. And if we can really listen, like the way you were saying, like, you know, being neutral, then we yeah, it comes to awareness, or we even feel that we are this spatial self. There's nothing that I cannot embrace. There's nothing that I have to deny or push away, or and yeah, but I guess it starts with ourselves, because there's so much I still try to push away. Then of course I'm gonna push it away on people too. So no, not that. But how is it to be there and knowing that my spatial self has already embraced everything, even though I think it hasn't?
Yeah, I get what you're saying. And I think it's both. And I think it's like when we're in dialogue, like you were saying, it's like we're in the whole experience, and it's not just my experience, it's your experience, it's the whole experience, but it's that relationship with all of it, and that includes myself.
Yeah, and I love what Jesus says in day 8 when he says you can even accept that you don't accept.
Oh
You can
yeah.
even accept that.
Yeah, so anyway, was there any last minute thoughts you wanted to offer before we close
No, I
about
just wanted
entering
to
the
say that
dialogue?
I feel expensive, you know, after having this conversation. So
Yeah.
yeah, but it only becomes alive if I sort of experiment myself, do some like, okay, I'm gonna go and try and share. So yeah, I hope if anyone is watching us that they can go out and yeah, try it by themselves and share it and share it from their hearts. Yeah.
Yeah, and have your own direct experience. But because I was going to say too, that's a good point, that, you know, Juliana and I are just sharing our experience and what this means for us. But we're encouraging everyone to make their own discoveries, because that's how it comes alive, is through direct experience and our own personal revelations. So yeah, this is something that could be revolutionary if we joined in the willingness and the trust to continue to practice this and see where it leads us all. Because according to the course of love, this is creation of the new.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, so thank you so much, Juliana, for joining us today. And I forgot to say in the beginning that Juliana helped translate the Portuguese edition of A Course of Love, Curso de Amor. And that's just been recently released in the last couple of months. So thanks to Juliana and her team for that. And okay, thanks everyone, to all our viewers. And next time we'll have another guest and another topic. Thanks.
Thank you.